To the strains of It Had to Be You, the new first couple took to the floor. But this was just a warm-up. The Arkansas Ball was the place to be. The new vice president and his wife knew it. Stamina, energy, and the call of a new generation had been the hallmarks of their campaign. Here it was again. He played 5 times in all, the President of the United States on tenor sax. Rock and rollers in charge of the government.
If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here tonight, and I'll never forget that. Thank you, and God bless you all.
But even amid the celebrations, reality. His new Secretary of State interrupting him, Iraq, Somalia, other problems crowding in. How was your day? Wonderful, thanks. Wonderful, he said. Nearby, his new military aide carrying the codes to the nuclear weapons he now controls. Democrats may be in charge of the White House, but on this first day, many still didn't have clearance to get past the security guards. Inside, offices are being cleaned, but Mr. Clinton has still to find hundreds of key people to fill them. Today, the celebrations are over, and the business of governing begins. Bill Neely, ITN, Washington.
Well, President Clinton has been briefed on the Middle East by Robert Hunter, a former security advisor to the Carter and Johnson administrations. He's in our Washington studio now. Well, Mr. Hunter, UN inspectors are in. Iraq seems cooperative for the moment, but if Saddam turns awkward, will Mr. Clinton behave the way Mr. Bush would have done?
He would have to. The way this has been set up, it's important for the United States to show that the new president can be just as tough as the old president. I don't expect that to happen. I think Saddam is going to keep his head down, not only because he would be concerned about what Mr. Clinton would do, but he's shown every indication of trying to put on a little peace offensive here to try to split the old administration off for the new, which is one reason that Clinton would have to respond quite strongly if Saddam doesn't behave.
Now, it's been said here that the relationship between this country and America is always close, of course, but that Mr. Major and Mr. Clinton don't really know one another. Is that going to be an important thing for the new president?
The new president's obviously going to put relations with the Allies very high on his list, and I think all the stuff about strained relations between Mr. Major and Mr. Clinton over what the Conservative Party did in our elections, I think that's overblown. Clinton's a politician. He's a man of great good sense, and I think he's going to reach out very soon to see that that special relationship that we have with Britain continues.
Now, much has been made of the fact that he doesn't know, or doesn't have much experience anyway, of a lot of the foreign problems that he faces, but there are an extraordinary number, aren't they? Iraq, Bosnia, Somalia, a massive list for him to get on top of.
That's right. He thought he was going to come in and deal primarily with domestic affairs. The world isn't going to let him do it. And in fact, the key one, in my judgment, is Bosnia, because so much comes together there, including his entire reputation in Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and the former Soviet Union to be commander-in-chief. That's the one he has to get on top of, even more than Iraq.
Robert Hunter in Washington, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
The mother of the murdered Kent teenager Claire Tiltman today told how her last words to her daughter were to take care. Claire was stabbed to death as she walked to a friend's house. Police say they're questioning a man, but they've stressed their inquiries are continuing.
Police had feared Lynn and Cliff Tiltman might be too distressed to speak of their daughter's death, but the couple wanted to launch a fresh appeal for help in finding her killer, and in doing so, talked frankly about their loss.
People have asked me how I am, and all I can say is what I've said to the doctor and everyone else. Do you know anyone that's got a tablet for a broken heart?
Lynn, what would you say to anyone watching or listening who may perhaps be shielding the person?
Just come forward.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Whoever it is, so that whoever it is can't do it again and destroy my life.
You know,
absolutely destroyed ours.
Operations on and around the murder scene had continued into the hours of darkness, inquiries concentrating on commuters and passers-by who may have been in the area when Claire was attacked. Detectives are still questioning a 19-year-old local man about Claire's death, but they say charges are not imminent. Robert Hall, ITN, Maidstone.
The editor of The Sun newspaper, Kelvin Mackenzie, this morning told MPs they would be nuts to bring in American-style privacy laws to govern the press. He told a lively meeting of a House of Commons committee that there was nothing wrong with a bit of scandal.
This was no media Daniel entering the lion's den. Mr Mackenzie's performance owed more to Rambo. He certainly made no apologies for the Sun's offer of a fiver to anyone who could spot Camilla Parker Bowles.
Well, on Camilla Parker Bowles, I think probably, I think I would describe now a public figure. I mean, when you sleep with the next King of England, I think you go into a rather different stratosphere than the, quotes, ordinary person, unquotes, that I think you had in mind as the basis of your question. On the defence, it was just a bit of fun. She's disappeared completely, not unreasonably. You know, having an affair with Prince Charles behind the husband's back is not necessarily the best way of leading a low-profile life.
And he said existing libel laws prevented the press printing the list of MPs said to have used the services of the missing Lindy St Clair, known as Miss Whiplash.
Can I tell you that if you had the US privacy laws, we could publish the name of every single MP named in the Lindy St Clair file, every single one of their alleged sexual peccadillos, and you couldn't claim one single penny.
As for Sir David Calcutt's report on press controls,
what Calcutt says, I believe he approached it with blinkers. He invited the establishment to tell him what he wanted to hear, and basically he'd been given a nod from within the government, get the press and produce a report which we can do it for.
But elsewhere in Westminster, the press was pursuing Mona Bowens, a friend of David Mellor's, whose own experience means she wants a privacy bill.
I really didn't know how to cope with the press. Do you put the phone down on them? Do you answer them? And it's very, very difficult.
The question is how to ensure individual privacy and freedom of the press. Mark Webster, ITN, Westminster.
The board of British Airways has been meeting this morning following the dirty tricks campaign it waged against its rival Virgin Atlantic. There's speculation that some top managers could be sacked after the airline's humiliating courtroom defeat. BA had to pay more than £600,000 in damages to Virgin.
By 8 this morning, the BA board had gathered at their headquarters, in spite of an extraordinary public denial by BA that the meeting was ever taking place.
We've been told no press, no photographer. Would you like to go over there, please?
It's the first time the board has met since Richard Branson's court victory 10 days ago. Directors are well aware that the city believes BA has handled the affair badly. There's been no public statement from Lord King, and no senior executive has yet taken responsibility. Shareholders are also worried about the impact the negative press is having on passengers.
It's quite apparent already that its traffic, its passenger traffic, has been hurt by this very directly. They're also very concerned that in the long term, British Airways' stoic refusal to make any positive act of good faith, which Richard Branson has appealed for, is actually going to be inclined to make Branson more likely to take action in the United States of America against British Airways and keep this thing going.
The Virgin boss knows that action in America will be damaging to all British airlines, but he will go ahead unless senior heads roll. It's also emerged that the European Commission intends to look at all the documents surrounding the case.
A new campaign has been launched today to dramatically improve the treatment and prevention of the fragile bone disease osteoporosis. The National Osteoporosis Society has unveiled a television advertising campaign to raise awareness of the disease, which affects 2 million older women in Britain. The Society says that although people may have heard of the disease, many are unaware that it can be treated and are not seeking help. The Society is also providing family doctors and nurses with the latest information on the disease, which increasingly affects men too.
And doctors say that stomach ulcers, which for many years have been blamed on stress, could be caused by a bug. In Britain, 1 in 10 men and 1 in 15 women can expect to suffer from an ulcer. Scientists think they are now close to a cure.
2 years ago, a meal like this would have meant weeks of utter agony for Sandra Shale. For 8 years, she suffered attacks from ulcers every 3 months. But now, after treatment based on the discovery that bacteria, rather than stress, cause ulcers, she can tuck into her food without fear of pain.
Pleasantly surprised. It's actually a fortnight's treatment, which takes no effort at all. And the results are marvellous, and they're instant.
GPs have been carrying out trials of a triple treatment, giving bismuth and 2 antibiotics to clobber the bacteria that cause ulcers.
We know it's 95% who have a duodenal ulcer have got the bacteria in there, and if you can get rid of the bacteria, then you can get rid of the ulcer in most patients.
Also blood in the duodenum.
Doctors examining patients with a fibre optic tube inserted into the duodenum, the part of the intestine where most ulcers occur, can use a tiny pair of tweezers to take a sample to show whether the bacteria are present. Many people have the bacteria, but not all develop ulcers. So scientists still believe factors like stress may play some part. But they're convinced that if they get rid of the bacteria, the ulcers go.
If the bacteria is cleared, the patient almost invariably does extremely well with very few recurrent ulcers. At present, we're getting about 80% clearance with the regime that we're using.
And already there's research into a vaccine that could give many more people like Sandra Shale freedom from the pain of ulcers.
Now we're going back to the news about unemployment. The latest figure for those out of work and claiming benefit shows an increase of more than 60,000 for the month of December, I should say, bringing the total to nearly 3 million. Well, the Employment Secretary, Gillian Shepherd, joins us now from Westminster. Mrs. Shepherd, your reaction to these figures, there's no sign at all, is there, of the rise slowing down, of the total coming down?
Well, these are obviously extremely difficult figures. What we're seeing coming on stream onto the unemployment count is the result of the redundancies that we heard announced in the autumn. And they're very difficult for the individuals concerned and for their families. We are, I think, now seeing more encouraging signs within the economy. For example, the Association of British Chambers of Commerce in their report today detected more signs of confidence and of optimism. But what we do know is that improvements in unemployment do lag the recovery, and that's why it's extremely important to stress that we have on stream the largest number and the widest range we have ever had of opportunities and measures to help people who are unemployed, 1.5 million opportunities in all.
But as the recession lifts, as you say, also productivity is going up, but that surely means the number of jobs is going to continue to leak away. Firms are relying more and more on mechanisation, new technology and so on.
Well, obviously employment growth is going to have to come from growth in the economy and the creation of new jobs from new businesses. That is very clear, and that's why the Chancellor's measures in the autumn statement and the very low inflation rate that we have and the low interest rates that we have, the lowest in the EC, and of course the competitive exchange rate that we have are just as important to encourage economic growth.
Are you in favour of what's called in America, I think, workfare, putting the unemployed to work more?
Well, of course, it depends what you mean by workfare. What is important is that people who are unemployed should have an opportunity, amongst the range of measures available to them, to keep very much in touch with the world of work. This is the kind of programme that's produced by Training and Enterprise Councils. It was called Employment Action, and it is being merged with employment training to provide new programme, 300,000 opportunities in all, called Training for Jobs. And these kinds of measures help people keep in touch with the workplace. As far as workfare is concerned, I have to say it's extremely expensive. It may not suit everybody. In the United States, where it is practiced in a number of individual states, it isn't compulsory, so that those running the programmes have willing volunteers, and you're still left with a lot of people with particular problems who don't go onto the programme.
We haven't got a lot of time, but I just want to ask you about British coal. There are reports that you are one of those rather against the subsidies that your colleague Michael Heseltine wants to see in order to keep some pits open. Surely if you want to see the total of unemployed coming down, these things you've got to be in favour of.
Well, as you know, there is a review currently going on of the pit closure issue, and I absolutely do not comment on uninformed speculation about what I might or might not think.
Mrs. Shepherd, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hollywood is today mourning the death of the film star Audrey Hepburn. Her grace and elegance made her one of its most admired stars, but she was also a tireless worker for charity.
How do I look?
Fragile, elegant, the fair lady of stage and screen, Audrey Hepburn's gentle charm and poise ensured international fame from her very first film.
He doesn't even know I exist. Might as well be reaching for the moon.
Roman Holiday with Gregory Peck won her an Oscar. Her first, She was nominated 4 times during her rich but short acting career. Her childlike innocence combined with spirit made her Liza Doolittle opposite Rex Harrison one of the all-time family favourites.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
Born in Belgium to an English father and Dutch mother, she was educated at a girls' school near London. Modelling and dancing took her on stage, thrust to fame in the 50s.
Funny,
But then in her late 30s, she abruptly retired from acting to look after her 2 sons. In her later life, she worked tirelessly as a goodwill ambassador for UNICEF, touring Somalia last autumn to highlight the suffering of the world's children. It was after that trip that she was admitted to hospital with cancer.
Waiting round the bend.
She's been honoured and loved by the film industry and by her UNICEF colleagues. She will now be missed by her fans.
And me.
Audrey Hepburn. We'll take a short break now. After it, today's talking point.
Yes, the pressure increases for a total ban on cigarette advertising. We're joined by an MP who thinks the time's definitely come for such a step, and a tobacco industry representative who argues against.
Then, at 1 o'clock, a summary of the main lunchtime news. All that in a couple of minutes.
My love for you is immeasurable. Your beauty and elegance. You're a rhapsody, a comedy. You're a symphony and a play. You're every love song ever written. But honey, what do you see in me? You're in my heart, you're in my soul, you're all my love.
The Peugeot 106, the little car with a big heart.
In my soul.
Look what hard water does. It dries and leaves watermarks and dull surfaces. And it builds up into lime scale.
But now you can brighten up your home with new Viacal.
Viacal?
Yes, Viacal. It is a remarkable name, but then it works in a remarkable way. Fizzing into action to fizz away lime scale.
It tackles the taps, and it makes stainless steel stainless again. In fact, Viacal fizzes back the brightness every time you use it.
It's the Viacal fizz that does the biz.
You daft.
If you suffer from sensitive teeth, there is a toothpaste you should know about. Mentadent S helps relieve the pain of sensitive teeth.
In the Sharps January sale, you can get a whole new bedroom at only half the price. Visit a showroom today.
Who cares if he's got a stuffy nose and needs a good night's sleep? Who cares if he needs something for a chesty cough but needs to stay awake? Who cares that she's got the start of a cold but can't slow down for a minute? Who cares enough to provide a complete range of winter medicines to help you find the one you need? Who cares?
I want to be a musician.
You want to be earning your keep, my son.
I want to be quitting my first album. I want to be packing them in at Wembley.
You'll probably work your way through more than one job before you can be what you want to be. That's why new Prudential pension plans are designed to change from job to job with you.
Do you know I want to be Bobby's girl?
Oh, no.
Whatever you turn out to be, you'll want the flexibility of a new Prudential pension.
I want to be in the office at 8 on the dot.
Every year, lives are wiped out by reckless car thieves. Make sure your car is secure.
Welcome back to Thursday's Lunchtime News.
And we move now to today's talking point. Demands to outlaw tobacco advertising continue to gather pace. The idea got powerful backing from an all-party MPs report yesterday. And one MP, Hugh Bailey, wants to introduce a law to stop all tobacco adverts. Well, he's in the studio now. Arguing against him is Christopher Bullock of the Tobacco Advisory Council. First of all, Mr. Bailey, there are already severe restrictions on advertising cigarettes. Why is it necessary to...
Summer continues the season of